Well, D-Roy Cruz here. Um, Pittsburgh. Mm, Give me a break. Um, a lot of people um, want to move to Pittsburgh, and uh, I don't know. There's like these real estate people. Now, don't get me wrong. If you are wealthy, you got good money, okay, you can live anywhere. If you can open up a business in Pittsburgh, um, if you're relocating to Pittsburgh because of your business, um, I think that I think that you could do well as long as you know where to live at in Pittsburgh. The thing that I hate about and I love my state, Pennsylvania, but the thing I hate about Pittsburgh and Philadelphia is you got to know where to live. You can't just live somewhere because the grass is green. The grass looks green. You got to know that the grass is really green, not that it just looks green. Okay, because crime in Pittsburgh in general, especially the inner cities, um, especially in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. Now, between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, I'd say a couple hours away from Pittsburgh, you can be in some really, really, really nice places and very peaceful places. 2 hours away from Philadelphia, you can be in a very, very, very nice place. Um, and again, I love my state. I really do. Um, but I am leaving Pittsburgh, and I'm leaving Pittsburgh because of it's becoming more ghetto. Um, so if you're moving to Pittsburgh, or if you're thinking of moving to Pittsburgh, inform yourself that um, please inform yourself that it does matter where at in Pittsburgh you're at. Now, downtown Pittsburgh, as you see here, is becoming a ghetto. And you see just as many street people, okay, downtown Pittsburgh invading your space every day, um, as you do people that are out there working big businesses and people out there that have great jobs and all like that. Um, you see the business, okay? Um, Now, some people might look at this compared to where they are from, and I've seen people even like recently when I was doing Uber and Lyft. I've seen people come here to Pittsburgh, excited to be here in Pittsburgh, and one guy came here from Canada, and he was like, you know, I just went to a game. I said, you come all the way here to Pittsburgh to go to a game from Canada? I would have went somewhere else. I'd have went to New Jersey, or I'd have went to New York, or I don't know. But he came all the way here from Canada, and when I told him, he was in my Uber. When I told him the difference between North Shore and the actual downtown Pittsburgh, he's like, wow, okay, so we're leaving North Shore. The Uber app had me take him through regular downtown Pittsburgh. And he saw immediately, like the street people, homeless people laying on the ground everywhere. Like, the sun's going down. You're seeing more of this. You know. Also, here in Allegheny County, especially Allegheny County, um, there is a lot of personality issues. Allegheny County is really horrible as far as helping people. If you need help in Pittsburgh, okay, Pittsburgh is not for people that don't have money. Now, again, you can live anywhere if you got good money. And there's a lot of beautiful places here in Pittsburgh. I live in a beautiful neighborhood here in Pittsburgh, okay? I live in a beautiful neighborhood. So, there's a lot of beautiful neighborhoods here in Pittsburgh. But downtown Pittsburgh is not it. Okay? Good old Braddock is not it. If you go to East Liberty, the traffic, oh my God. Don't even rent a vehicle. You might get hit. You know what I mean? Trying to figure out, you got your, the app is telling you to make a left, and the green light is, the green arrow is pointing left, but where am I supposed to turn at? Like, and I held up traffic because I'm like, okay, I'm turning. Where am I turning? The cars are coming straight at me. Where am I turning? It's just the traffic is another thing that's horrible in Pittsburgh. If you have not been here over and over again and have lived here a while, been on enough vacations here or whatever, and drove in a car around Pittsburgh, I gave up. I lost money on Uber and Lyft because I got tired of riding in the inner cities of Pittsburgh. That's where all the money's at. I picked up some people, especially when it comes to people that look like me, my people of color, okay? Picking people up in an Uber tends to be a problem a lot of times around here. Now, I picked people up on the outskirts of Pittsburgh, and everything was beautiful. I mean, conversations, the routing, the signs on the roads to get there and all like that. But like, there's so many roads here in Pittsburgh and bridges. Oh my God, bridges here in Pittsburgh need to be renewed. We got bridges here. If I bring up Fort Pitt Bridge to anybody here in Pittsburgh, we could be talking all day, because everybody hates that Fort Pitt Bridge, because it's the worst place you ever want to get into an accident from. There's no, you come up on one end of the ramp, you got to get all the way over, you got to cover 4 lanes. Nobody's going to speed limit. Nobody wants to stop. Nobody wants to slow down and let you get over. It's crazy. I went to Harrisburg. They had a stupid bridge like that, just one. We got several here in Pittsburgh, but they had a stupid bridge like that in Harrisburg. I only got one. And everybody slowed down and just waved at you like, come on, go, go, go. And the next person seen that person was letting you over. He's like, come on, go. They let you because they know, they understand. Okay, they understand that you got to get over there. And so they did. They did that. They helped you get over there. People were more courteous, okay? But unless you are wealthy, if you are rich, you don't have to be rich, but unless you are wealthy, I mean wealthy, and your business is settled, okay? Because don't move to Pittsburgh thinking that you're going to start a business. Start a business in Pittsburgh and get that underway first, get that under wraps, then move to Pittsburgh. And when you move to Pittsburgh, you got to know where you're living. You got to know where you're moving. Because, especially if you're black. Because for a black person, people here in Pittsburgh will target you. They have no problem, bothering you on the street. They have no problem breaking into your house, if you're in the wrong place, okay? You know, um, they do it to white folks too, but they do it to black folks more, okay? Um, People have no problem. If you're moving to Pittsburgh, have money, have a lot of money. Now, if you got good money and you got a car, public transportation in Pittsburgh is starting to be a bummer. The subway in Pittsburgh, now I'll say this. The subway in Pittsburgh is fine in broad daylight. But at night, when the subway's about to close, I tell you women, you do not need to be getting on these subway trains and being there by yourself. I got on a subway train not too long ago. There are people, and it's just like in New York, criminals getting on the subway trains at night, bothering the ladies, trying to rob somebody, whatever, okay? Even when I worked for the stadium, I was working at the football stadium, the Steeler Stadium, and me and my supervisor, he didn't want to get on, as big as he is, he's a big dude, and a couple other of us, we did not want to get on them trains by ourselves, because you don't know what's creepy. So we're in the subway, and there's this dude that looks like he's demon possessed. We're rushing to get to our subway, and there's this fine young, girl from another country. She very, very pretty, and she's getting on the subway. He probably thought she was black. I don't know, but this dude looked like he was spaced out. He looked like really, really, really rough. And he looked at her and kept staring at her all the way down. And she didn't realize it. I'm watching him as I'm walking away. I'm watching him stare at her. And I'm thinking, thank God she's with her friend. Because if she was by herself, I probably would have missed my ride trying to make sure that guy didn't bother her. Because he looked like he was waiting for... He literally looked like... Because... in another hour, the trains will be closing, and it'll be your last stop. And anybody, and especially while they're under construction. So, you're not leaving Pittsburgh. You're going in a circle, and you're coming right back down Pittsburgh because they're working on the subway. They're working on the rails. So, this guy, he get on there with some girl from another country that don't know her way around, and get on that subway train, and it's just him and her way in the back train. I'm telling you, it's Pittsburgh is. I've gotten to the place where I don't even want to go down there in broad daylight. I just don't. I I watch people every day sit there on the street and just and it's not just the homeless people. It's people, period. It's street people. Like they live downtown. Now, what they done with downtown Pittsburgh is they got rid of the fast food restaurants, and I believe they have a goal to bring downtown Pittsburgh back to what it used to be, because back in the day, they didn't have McDonald's and all that. Downtown Pittsburgh, they had, more expensive places, and so, they got rid of McDonald's. I think they got rid of they closed down Burger King. They closed down all 4 McDonald's, and I think Arby's is the only thing down there that is still down there that's considered fast food. Arby's is still down there. Wendy's is closed, I believe. Now, there's other places that are down there that are fast food, but they are not a franchise. They're not, they're pretty much independent. And you should have the original hot dog and stuff like that down there. And what I hate about these places is you go down there and you're eating in their restaurant and you can't use the restroom because they don't want no people off the street using their restroom. But you're in there and you're paying for their food and you're allowed to sit at a table and eat, but you can't use the restroom because they don't want no people off the street, no matter who you are, using their restrooms. Okay? And that's why I hate, one of the things I hate about downtown Pittsburgh. I can go in a place and spend my money and say, hey, can I use your restroom? To find out I'm about to pee on myself because I'm not allowed to use the restroom. I got to leave my food sitting there and go run across the street somewhere to use the restroom. Run inside an office building. Security don't want me in there using their restroom either. Their restroom is only open to those that have appointments. So, it's just really, really crazy. Now, some of these places, they don't want street people up on the top floors. So they finally put the bathroom, instead of closing it down, they put it downstairs, closer to the doors and on the bottom floor, which is a problem because homeless people are in there. They go in the bathrooms. They in there asking people for money in the bathrooms, getting in arguments with people and stuff like that. Next thing you know, the paramedics show up, the police show up. You know what I'm saying? Now, getting past that, I got friends who tell me, they've been saying this way back in the 80s. Okay? They don't go downtown Pittsburgh for nothing. Okay? And you can say that when you can say that when you've been driving a car and you always been a driver. You're never taking a break from driving. So that's another thing. If you do come to Pittsburgh and you don't have, you're not wealthy. Let's say your job, you get a transfer here to Pittsburgh because of your job and you're not wealthy. Wealthy and rich people are the only ones that survive, okay? If you come here and you're not wealthy, do yourself one favor. Stay behind the wheel of a car. Make sure you have a running vehicle that if it breaks down, you can go buy another vehicle. If you total your vehicle, you can go buy another one within days. You can go buy another vehicle. Make sure you do two things if you move here to Pittsburgh. Make sure you have a good bank account that stays good. Okay? Make sure you have a good bank account that stays good. All right? And make sure you have a car that stays on the road and stays good running and all like that. Now, if you got a car, you can quit your job and work for Uber and Lyft and make more money than you're making at your job. Because Uber here in Pittsburgh, the rides do not stop. You're gonna be getting trips. I mean, if you're anywhere near the inner cities here in Pittsburgh, you're going to get trip after trip after trip after trip after trip 7 days a week. That's one thing good about Uber. Uber is locked into Pittsburgh to where you can quit your job and work for Uber. And people have gotten fed up with the way they treat you, and it's very spiritual in my opinion, the way people treat you in these jobs. And they've just worked for Uber, and they're making a living for it better than they've made all their life, just doing Uber here in Pittsburgh. And then not only that, Pennsylvania is also a good state to do Uber in. Most inner cities, most towns that are, if they have a good, amount of business in those towns and amount of moving around in those towns, some of these towns where you would never expect there to be Uber or Lyft, they're making a fortune on Uber and Lyft in these towns because There's no buses, but everybody's getting around. And Uber in some of these towns here in Pennsylvania is the number one source of transportation for anybody and everybody. Okay? But the problem with the bus line, since they changed it from Port Authority to Pittsburgh Regional Transit, is that there is a lot of assault, especially at night, on and off these bus lines, these bus stops, and all like that. There's assaults, there's different things going on, because what happens is if your bus does not come, it just does not come. It doesn't matter if you're a young girl, you're somebody's little kid. It doesn't matter if you're a grandpa, a grandmama, whoever you might be. If your bus don't come, it just don't come. When I worked for the hospital, I constantly saved up money every paycheck. I saved up so much money and had it in escrow in case I have to get an Uber. Because how many times did I get stuck at work? How many times did I get a bus to go all the way downtown? And that's the other problem. If you get on public transportation in Pittsburgh, you could be an hour away from Pittsburgh, and all you want to do is get a bus 20 minutes away the opposite direction of Pittsburgh in your neighborhood. You got to go downtown Pittsburgh to get a bus going to that neighborhood. It's going to come up there and bypass where you live to get you there. Okay? Oh, we got buses that are outside of Allegheny County. And we got buses right in Allegheny County. And it was bad when it was Port Authority, but now that it's regional transit, it seems like we got less buses to go less places. And they're starting to spread around all these stops. So there's people that are right here within the city to get around. They're catching like 4 buses. It's getting ridiculous. So again, 2 things you need to have if you're going to come and live in Pittsburgh right now. Now, these white folks getting on here showing you how to go live in some of the best places in Pittsburgh. They're teaching you how to buy a house, and they're teaching you how to get businesses. They're teaching you how to get into business. That might be fair because you have to have an exceptional amount of money to do that. But the people that but if you come to Pittsburgh, you have to have 2 things. You have to, first of all, have good money. You got to be at least middle class. Don't be no low class person and try to move to Pittsburgh. You got to at least be middle class and up. Number 2, got to have a car. Do not come here thinking you're going to rely on public transportation. You can rely on public transportation if you live in the city and you keep money in your bank account, okay, for Uber, okay, that's fine. You know what I'm saying? You ride the bus back and forth, and then one day, sometime this week, the bus didn't show up, which that's going to happen a lot. There's just going to be times when a bus don't show up. Okay? And so what you want to do is you want to call your Uber to get you where you got to go, or call your Uber to get you back to your car, or whatever. And even in that, where's your car parked at? There's people going around waiting on you to go pick up your car. You're out there at night by yourself trying to get your car out of some abandoned lot. They call that parking lot or whatever. There's people tracking you when you do that. They're watching for you to go there and you know what I'm saying. I got friends that I work with. We did security together. They said they had to pull their gun going to pick up their car after, some event in Pittsburgh. We couldn't park in front of our job or behind our job or whatever. We had to go park way clear across Pittsburgh somewhere, clear across downtown Pittsburgh somewhere. And he gets out there, and there's these kids acting goofy out there, like they trying to, like they getting ready to bust a move or something. He pulling his 9. Okay? So, it's really, 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 and it's not just black people that are screwing up here in Pittsburgh. African guys, they come out here, they live like angels in Africa, and then they come out here and they want to be in the hood. They want to act like they in the hood. They want to try to act like a hood rat. Some of these African folks that come out here, but when the white man get mad at them, they want to say they black. They want to say they want to say they black, and you're going against the black people. No, you're going against the African dude. You're not black, dude. You're African. You don't even like black people, but you want to, And I feel sorry. There's some nice black people around up here where I live. Nice African people, I meant. Up here where I live. And, I'm hard-faced around everybody because don't come to me with that I got a problem with black people issue. Okay? And then think I'm supposed to, I'm supposed to help you. I'm supposed to make a sacrifice for you. I'm not going to do that. I mean, if it don't lead you to Jesus, I'm not going to do it. I'm just sorry. I don't kiss butt. I just don't. There's a lot of immigrants in this country, Africans, Arabs, Indians, some of these Indian guys that go to University of Pittsburgh out here. They get on the buses being ignorant, One kid I almost pepper sprayed one white kid on one of these buses out in Oakland in University of Pittsburgh because he's trying to show off for his girlfriend, real tall white kid, okay? And I'm asking him to move his feet, so he's blocking the back of the bus. His girlfriend had to slap him because I was going to pepper spray him. Girlfriend had to slap him to get him to move his feet. I mean, there are some demonic spirits here in Pittsburgh. And up here where I live, it's starting to get better again. But after the pandemic, it was bad, and it's still bad up here. We got some people up here that they got some screws loose, and they don't know how to leave people alone, and they just got a problem, ever since I moved back here to Pittsburgh, like I left here back in 1987, I left here because I was tired of the ghetto I was living in. I didn't really know all of Pittsburgh until I moved to Westmoreland County after I got out of trade school. I moved to Westmoreland County of Pittsburgh, right outside of Pittsburgh, on the outskirts of Pittsburgh. That's not considered Pittsburgh up there. Everything is its own borough up there. Okay. But you're dealing with the regional transit up there all over the place. Okay. But my town, I remember when I first moved into that town up there in Westmoreland, regional transit, or should I say Port Authority back then, was all over the place. Now, there's one bus up there that goes to one place within a series of stops. It takes one shot through one part of Westmoreland County / Allegheny. And the only reason why it does that is because when you get to the top, you're back in Allegheny County. When you get to Tarentum, Brackenridge, and Natrona Heights, out that way, you're back in Allegheny County. But they don't have a bus that goes in Natrona Heights anymore. They don't have a bus that goes into Tarentum anymore. They only have the bus that goes into New Kensington. Why? Because they got more people there that don't have cars and that need bus riding. So forget about the people that need, to get a bus from Natrona Heights to Pittsburgh. Okay, so they changed that route. Okay, and that bus okay, runs very, very slow on weekdays. Never misses a beat, but it runs slow. And on the weekends, oh my God, okay. Really hard bus to get. Now I gotta admit, it ends at like 11:30 at night, which is good. But um, and I would rather be on a bus leaving Pittsburgh if I'm gonna get on a bus at night than to be going from Pittsburgh to one of the inner cities of Pittsburgh. Okay. My bus that brings me up here from downtown Pittsburgh at night. Okay. Once I get on the bus, I'm fine. Okay. But there's people that get on the bus. They come down here to Pittsburgh at night. They got no money. So they come down here to Pittsburgh to do what? To drink or to do whatever. Then they get on the bus and they go to bothering people, getting smart with people, giving the bus driver trouble. Blah, 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 blah. It's just that kind of lifestyle. And, you know, and don't get me wrong, Pittsburgh's not as bad as Philadelphia. It's not as bad as New York, New Jersey. There's some places in Ohio that got Pittsburgh beat as far as crime and all that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Washington, D.C., you know what I'm saying? There's places outside, you know, like right there near the monument. They got Pittsburgh beat when it comes to crime, problems on the subways, buses, you name it. But Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. Now, I do believe that they are trying very hard to control some things. In Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Harrisburg, they are trying some things, especially Harrisburg. I think they got a new mayor in Harrisburg that's going to clean up Harrisburg. I think I voted for her. She's going to clean up Harrisburg. Philadelphia, I'm watching all kinds of videos right here on YouTube where they're claiming they're going to clean up Philadelphia. And so, you know, but there's a lot of places, a lot of good places in Pennsylvania where the rent is cheaper. Not as easy to get jobs as it is in Pittsburgh, or about as easy as it is to get jobs. But the rent is cheaper, the cost of living is cheaper in those areas, period. And so, you know, they're better places to live, less crime. You got a lot of that in Pennsylvania. Now, here's the pro of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is, when it comes to the weather in Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania is a safer place to be. We hardly ever go through any hurricanes. You know, our blizzards and storms, whether they be rainstorms or snowstorms, are down to a minimum compared to New York, compared to some of the other northern states. The summer, the heat, our problem is humidity, but the temperatures, yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh has some of the worst humidity. You know, some of us call off work when it's hot outside, okay? Especially if it's in the 80s and it's humid. Oh, my Lord, we just call off work, a lot of us, okay? It's really bad. But compared to other places, that's down to a minimum, too. It can be really, really, really even more humid in other places. And Pennsylvania is a really good place in between West Virginia, Ohio, Delaware, you name it. It's a good drive. Like if you're a guy like me that likes to drive and see and just drive for a hobby, Pennsylvania is that place. You can even come here to Pittsburgh and go from one end of Pittsburgh to the other and enjoy the ride. You can ride right through downtown and cross the bridge and head out and see a whole totally different world, you know. You can drive anywhere in Pennsylvania. And, you know, Pennsylvania is still a good state. Pennsylvania is lower on crime than most states. It's lower on horrible weather conditions than most states. It's lower on, you know, many different things. And the cost of living is kind of like in the middle for the northern states up here. And, you know, but like I said, let me say it one more time. You don't come to Pennsylvania, especially Pittsburgh. You don't come to Pittsburgh as somebody that does not have money. Don't come here homeless. Don't come here because there's no programs to help you. You're going to end up on the street. Somebody's going to loan you a tent to sleep in. Then they're going to beat you up and take your tent. Okay? Don't come here homeless. Don't come here on some rinky-dink fixed income. You come here, you move here, you transfer here, you come here in a car. You don't need to worry about paying public transportation. You come here in a car, and that car, you are a driver. Your car is always on the road. That's a pro for you. And you come here and you got, you know, you're a middle-class American. You have a business or you have a really high-paying job where, you know, you can get out of town once a month. You know, I mean, just leave, go somewhere else. You might like it here if you got it like that, but, you know, I think black issues, I should say, in Pittsburgh are worse than some other northern states. Like, I think black issues in Pittsburgh are worse than Ohio, or in Pennsylvania, are worse than Ohio. I think black issues are worse, maybe Ohio. Washington, D.C., I think Washington, D.C. has had a upcline. I don't know, with this kind of problem. I don't know, but I just know black people were different when I had to spend a little bit of time in Cleveland. Black people in Cleveland were totally a different package than most of the black people I meet here in Pittsburgh every day. They were very helpful, very friendly, and when I went to West Virginia is starting to grow in ethnicity in West Virginia. And so you're seeing neighborhoods, you're seeing black people move into the neighborhoods. It's not as pro-white as it used to be. You got black folks living out in the country, getting along with their white neighbors and all like that. Where, you know what I mean? Out here, you know, a lot of my employees and supervisors and managers and that, they come to work and act like, good morning, everyone, but they don't want your black butt living in their neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? You go to their neighborhood, they go into a panic, you know. What are you doing? What are you doing out here? Oh, I'm just, you know, this is what I do for fun. I ride, I drive, you know. What you come out here for? You know. Then you go to work on Monday and they're like, what you go to my neighborhood for? Again, I like to ride. I wasn't trying to, sorry I found out where you live, but again, I was riding, you know. That's what I like to do. I like to ride, you know. I didn't mean to run into your neighborhood, you know. But now that I know where you live, okay, nice to meet you, neighbor, you know, and they hate that, you know. They're on a panic, like, you know, they even whispering to each other, well, you know, D-Roy riding around and all this kind of stuff. He's scaring us. He's making us worry, blah, 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 you know. But Pittsburgh, and I'm not saying all of Pennsylvania, but Pittsburgh needs Jesus. It really does. People are ignorant. That's another thing about Pittsburgh. People are ignorant about God out here. People hate God. They hate Jesus. When I used to work right outside Mellon Square Park up here, I did security. And my fellow security guards took it out on me every time a preacher opened his mouth. they'd come to me. That's your preacher out there? Why don't you go across the street and tell him to shut the F up? I mean, they're just rude. I'm like, no, that's not my preacher. Okay? And I wouldn't go across the street and tell him to shut the F up. What I would do is go across the street and tell him to ask our boss if he could come in here and preach to everybody and do his thing right in here. Okay? Y'all better leave me alone, or that's what I might do. Of course, that would never happen because they don't like Jesus anymore, and the rest of them do. But, and they hate Donald Trump out here. Oh, I mean, even white folks out here, they hate Donald Trump. Oh boy, it's like even the white folks, they act like they're gonna jump me the minute I say Trump. Now don't get me wrong. Out here, there's a lot of white people that love Trump, but they're split. They keep their mouths shut. They act like they're afraid of everybody. I'm not afraid of you on the bus and in front of my own house. Okay? I'm just afraid of you while I'm waiting at the bus stop, waiting on the bus to get there, knowing that it could not come there at any moment. Okay? It could just not show up, So I'm gonna be careful letting your black behind know that I voted Republic, but it's bad. It's bad. It's really bad. And black people think it's funny and cute that you can't wear a Trump hat nowhere in Pittsburgh. Black or white, you're not going to wear a Trump hat. Even outside on the outskirts of Pittsburgh, you're not going to get caught wearing a Trump hat. You're not going to have Make America Great in your window, even in some of these predominantly white neighborhoods, because they're afraid what people from the inner city might come up there and do, or they're afraid what white folks that live next door to them that hate Trump might do. Okay, might key their car or whatever, But them protests that been happening, we ain't had that crap here in Pittsburgh. There ain't been no Antifa protests. We had one BLM protest here in Pittsburgh. We had two of them. We had the George Floyd riots, and then we had one recently while Biden was in office. I forget what that was about. Somebody got shot, whatever. And I was working downtown Pittsburgh at the time, and we had wall-to-wall security. You had the police parked around the hotel and that, because they thought that these guys were, but they were warned ahead of time that the protests better be peaceful. So that's the way it is here in Pittsburgh. We're not going to tolerate the stuff that goes on, and it's not Pittsburgh. It's more about a Pennsylvania thing when it comes to that. We're not going to tolerate the stuff that goes on in other states. We're not going to tolerate what goes on in New York. That's not coming up here. And you notice, like, most of the immigrants that live up here, the majority of them are legal. Okay? And the ones that are not legal, they just disappear. ISIS ain't going to be on TV in Pittsburgh. ICE ain't going to be on TV in Pittsburgh. You know what I'm saying? There ain't going to be some Spanish people getting on TV on Eyewitness News or Channel 4 News or whatever, complaining about being deported or whatever. You're just quietly removed. Like, if you are illegal here in Pittsburgh, I think we had one. I saw this at work a few days ago. We had one guy that they tried to, there was an issue where a guy tried to, where ICE tried to go after a dude here in Pittsburgh, and they found out that he was actually legal. And they had to get these people that he worked for. He owned a couple businesses or whatever, and they went to investigate him, and they let him go because, they were told by a lot of his customers and that the guy's legal. They've known the guy for years. Blah, 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 blah. But, I mean, we don't have no protests. There ain't no protests against Jews up here. Ain't no protests against Palestinians up here. There ain't none of that stuff. You know, you can go on YouTube, see that, but you ain't gonna see it here in Pittsburgh. People protest. The protests we get up here are dumb. We have protests over what people eat. We called the cops on some protesters about bird meat. Okay, and they felt that my job is not allowed to eat live bird meat or something. They were protesting against I guess they were vegans or something, but we weren't even doing that meat. We don't do that meat here in America. The kind of meat that they were protesting about, that's outside the country. But they don't live outside the country, so they thought they was going to come to my hotel and make us or make the customers, you know, try to provoke our customers to think that we're putting some kind of bird meat in the meat that they're eating or whatever to make it taste good or whatever. And all of our customers just laughed at them. They thought they were hilarious. And the cops, now that's another problem in Pittsburgh. The cops here in Pittsburgh can be ignorant. Now they're not known for police brutality and, you know, they don't do no Rodney King, sit on your neck, like the whole George Floyd crap. They don't do that. But cops are very nasty out here in Pittsburgh. They do provoke you to want to punch them. Like you could be an employee and your job is security and you're dealing with somebody. And I was talking to a guy one day. We were having a peaceful talk and the dude was drunk. And I was just talking to him because I was trying to get him to park his car across the street, so that other people could come up the street. I said, there's room over there, and I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't tell him to go over there because, but people had to back out because his car was parked there, and they were honking and honking and honking, and we were like, he's drunk, he don't know how to move his car, blah, 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 blah. I tried to get him to move his car, okay, and then the cop came, we called him, cop comes, and he just threw his hands in my face like, back up and go back inside. Like, he's real ignorant. He just did like that. Like, get out, go away. Like, you called us. We're here now. Bye, shut up. That kind of attitude. And he made me want to say, dude, I work here. He hit my partner's car. Okay. I'm allowed to take notes. Okay. And, and I had the same problem up in Westmoreland, cops being ignorant. Well, we're here now. You called us, so let us deal with it. Go back inside, Well, I want to find out what's going to happen to my car. I want to find out, what you going to do? Like, you know what I'm saying? I want to know what's going to happen, Go back inside, They're real ignorant, Cops out here can be real ignorant. And I'm saying that as a conservative, okay? They can be real ignorant. And I've seen situations where, but when it comes to black folks and cops, I'm surprised that ain't nothing in Pittsburgh ever on the Hodgwins podcast. I'm surprised. But that's one of the reasons why I want to get away from Pittsburgh, because even though we haven't ended up on the Hodge Twins podcast and stuff like that, video footage of Pittsburgh, some place in Pittsburgh, where black folks was acting a fool. And it happens all the time, but it just didn't reach YouTube somehow. And I'm glad of that. But like I said, Pennsylvania is divided. It's not all one thing. That's a good thing I love about Pennsylvania. And I remember a time when Pittsburgh was a wonderful place. At least this part of Pittsburgh in the picture, downtown Pittsburgh. I remember when this was a wonderful place. I remember as a kid, you know what I mean? If you was downtown Pittsburgh and you didn't buy any, you wasn't near the shop, they put you on a bus and sent you home. They told you get back on the bus and go home. You know what I mean? And black folks look at me like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, they did it to us. And we didn't have a problem. We didn't have money to shop. They were like, are you buying anything? You're underage. You're not old enough to be drinking. You shouldn't be drinking out here. Leaving litter in the parking garages. Do you own a car in this parking garage? No. So what are you doing down here? You're not shopping. You don't have a car down here. You're not commuting. You're not riding the bus from one place to another. Why are you here? Do you have money to be down here? Okay, get on the bus before you run out of money and go home. Because if we take you home, we're going to talk to your mama and your daddy. Okay? That's the way they were. And I didn't have a problem because I felt that they were just being adults. I didn't see that as them being racist or nothing. I felt that they were just being adults. Okay? But today, they might just snatch you up by your neck and throw you in a wagon and say, and I've seen kids downtown Pittsburgh, homeless, show up into my hotel, and we're chasing them around the hotel. Finally, we catch up with them. We call the police. Police come. The police just nice. They were so nice to them. Just walked them out. But the people that you should be nice to, you're mean to, okay? But the people that you need to put your foot down with, you just ask them nicely to go home, or I'm sorry, ma'am, but they don't want you here. What do you mean? What do you mean we don't want them there? They got no business here. There's nothing for them here. They ain't got no money to be in here. You know what I mean? Well, they don't want you here. Now, when I went to Allentown, it was altogether different. When I spent some time in Allentown. When Allentown, okay, the police were very nice. And the police are up here and where I live too. They're very nice until you get in trouble up here. But most of the cops up here are very nice. They're very nice up here. We're outside of Pittsburgh. We're our own borough. So cops up here are pretty nice. But downtown Pittsburgh, they can be very, very rude. And in the inner cities that are predominantly black, they are very, very, very rude. They can be very, very rude. And I just don't like having to deal with them. Okay? I've been other places. I've been to Altoona. Cops were very nice. I've been to Allentown. The cops, I don't know if they're nice or not because I didn't have a run-in with them. But they seem to be very, very nice. I just know that in closing, I'm glad that, first of all, number one, Pennsylvania is not all one piece. Every, county has its own issues and has its own pros and cons. The weather up here is nothing like the other areas around us. Crime has went down some, but it's still bad enough to where nobody is safe. So, I can't really give crime a rating up, but crime is not as bad in Pittsburgh as it is in Philadelphia. Crime is not as bad in Pittsburgh as it is in New York. Crime is not as bad in Pittsburgh as it is in, let's say, certain parts of Ohio, Washington, D.C., you name it. Anywhere up here in these northern areas, any of these neighborhoods close to us, these states close to us, Delaware might have less crime, but I heard that there's a lot of crime in Delaware. I don't know. But again, if you're moving to Pittsburgh, bring two things. Bring your bank account. Bring a few thousand. Okay? And bring a car. Don't come here looking for a job with a little bit of money in the bank. Don't come here thinking you're going to ride public transportation. Public transportation will make you miserable and make you want to shoot somebody. But if you got a car and you got good money, Pennsylvania is a beautiful state to live in. Pittsburgh even is a better place to live in. If you come to Pittsburgh you got good money in the bank, you got a nice car, and you know what part of Pittsburgh to live in and what parts of Pittsburgh to stay away from, you can be happy here in Pittsburgh. So that's my ending, closing. Thank you for watching. Talk to you later on with more. I haven't done anything on this channel for a while, so there you have it. God bless.